Welcome to the Sun Coaches West podcast. I'm the host, Chris Sinkovich. Today we have podcast episode number 5. Our subject will be football practice organization and tips to make it great. Not me being an expert. I've talked to a whole bunch of people. I've watched a lot of people. And I'm going to try and share with you what can help you make your practice better, particularly directed at the high school level in this particular episode. To me, a successful practice is going to start the night before. Let's say it's a Tuesday during the season. At Las Vegas High School, where I was the head coach for 9 years, when our Tuesday practice was over, we would come off the field as a staff. We would go into our staff room, which was within the locker room. We would briefly and quickly discuss the practice. I might give my opinions of what I thought, good or bad. And then very briefly, anybody that had an idea about what we were going to do tomorrow, Wednesday, would hit that out. At that time, I always kept a computer and a printer in my office. So I always had a template for Wednesday's practice ready, blank. And so I would print that out, and I knew we were going to have 10 minutes of individual, because you don't get something or make it important if you don't stress it and do it, even as the season goes on. So I would have the coaches, individual coaches, fill out their drills for that individual period, do it quickly, and then I would dismiss them. I wanted them to go. I love being around the coaches just like you do. Is one of the reasons we do it. But this is not the time in this point of the year to sit around and BS or me tell stories or entertain. These guys all have full-time jobs, whether they're teaching at the school or doing something off campus. Then they've been there all afternoon for practice. They have families at home. Get the coaches out of there, okay? That being said, I did hold the defensive coordinator. For me, it was a great coach named Chris Faircloth, and I also held the special teams coordinator, who was Zach Ordish, who did an excellent job. I kept them just for a couple minutes, and I wanted to make sure I had anything in the Wednesday schedule that they felt they needed in particular that may be in a little different or off script. Speaking of scripting, I would go ahead and script the offense, and I would do it that night. Couple things on my mind here. First of all, I got my new Carroll College shirt on from Helena, Montana. I want to shout out the offensive line coach, Luke Hyde, was recruiting in Las Vegas yesterday. And I was fortunate enough to have lunch with him and got this shirt laid on me. My wife, Joni, and I are Carroll College graduates, and we're loyal to the Saints, and the head football coach there, Troy Purcell, who also was an Idaho guy at one time, and we think very highly of the program. So thanks for the gear, man. Love the shirt. But again, going on now, I did my scripting, and the D coordinator, he either would go do his right then, or coach may do it in the morning, which I was okay with. But now, having said that, I followed my friend Ed Fisher, right? I've talked about him before. He was a head coach at South Kitsap High School in Port Orchard, Washington, and he taught me that your work during the season is always done before you go home. So I really followed that. I believed in that strongly. And so moving forward, the staff was dismissed. Now I've dismissed the D coordinator and the special teams coach. And now I'm there by myself, and I can get a lot done. So I would go ahead. I would just type in the schedule onto that template. I would print the schedules out. I would put one and put each coach's name on it, and it was on the table ready for tomorrow. And then I would also take a copy and put it out in the locker room so our players could see it. I liked the players knowing what we were doing. I felt like it helped us get from drill to drill faster. And then the final part of this was, I expect our locker room to be pristine, clean, and immaculate. But it's not the custodian's job to do that. Custodian, they got enough to do during the day. They don't need to have the night shift guy come in and start with some crappy locker room left by a bunch of entitled people. So Coach Faircloth, because again, I think as a head coach, you got to delegate. Coach Faircloth took this and ran with it, and actually he's the one that thought of it. So each week we assigned a position group was responsible to clean our locker room during the season. Coach Faircloth posted that. He would remind once, and then I would check and see, because I had the best view at the end of the day of whether the job was getting done or not. So I printed the schedules. I went out in the locker room. I posted. I had all my work done. And so the last thing I would do leaving was check that locker room. And generally, I would see the young men. They took pride in that. And we had a broom and a dustpan in there. And they would be sweeping it up, putting it in the dustpan, and making sure the floor was clean. As you know, coaches, probably once a year somebody was going to screw it up or not do a superb job that we expected. So the next day of practice, we would simply put them on the line and say, thanks to our offensive line, the locker room wasn't clean last night. Let's go ahead and get on the ground. We'll do some bear crawls, just a little reminder of what we do here. As Coach Fisher always told me, don't punish with running. We spend a lot of time making guys like to run. Punish with something that's hard. We use bear crawls. And usually that one time a year reminder took care of those issues. And to me, it's really important. And the cool thing was we could lock our locker room. So during the school day, when PE classes were in the gymnasium area, nobody could get in there. Okay. And so, yeah. And if we're smart, we take pride in that stuff. That to me is just the start of taking pride in all the other little things. So, other notes about setting up a practice schedule. I was taught by several good coaches. Coach Fisher was also one of them. Do not condition at the end of practice if you use a conditioning period. Frankly, I liked at Idaho and at Arkansas, where I was fortunate to coach, we practiced so fast, we didn't need to condition. We got plenty of work done getting our football work done. But if you do feel like you need to condition, don't do it at the end. You're going to have some guys that are not giving you 110% in every drill rep, every team rep, knowing that they're going to probably have to run sprints or whatever it is you do at the end of practice. So they're going to have a governor on, right? And we don't like governors. Governors suck except for school buses. So you want to get that thought out of their heads, like, we're going to bust our ass, okay? And we're not conditioning at the end of practice. When to do it. Do it in the middle of practice. Like we would do it right before water breaks. But I believe you condition, if you need to do extra conditioning, with bursts of speed, short-term bursts, all right, where they're maximum effort. So we would run 10s, 20s, 30s, or 40s. So we were getting near a water break. And again, talking about water breaks, I know living in Las Vegas, we always scripted a minimum of 2 and usually 3 water breaks into our schedule. College football, you don't have to do that. You got trainers with every position group. We didn't. And we get fired up and get going, and we won't stop if we don't schedule it. So we scheduled it and made sure everybody was hydrated. And also legally, as you always have to take care of, it also is a good way to protect yourself. If something happened to one of your players, God, please, I hope nothing does happen. But it's good to have it on the schedule. So we might line up and do 320s right before water. And I'd make sure they went 21 yards, right? 21 yards, not 20. That goes back to the episode number 1 podcast where we talked about being a finisher and getting a finisher shirt at the end of the season. Well, a finisher is going to sprint past the finish line to ensure that they're always maximum effort into and beyond what the rep requires. So then, bam, the third one would be done. We'd hustle off the field, always run to the sideline, never let anybody walk. They run off the field, and I would sprint to the sideline and make sure they did. And then they got water, and we'd usually give them 4 to 5 minutes. When there was 1 minute left in the water break, I blew the whistle, and those guys knew in that 1 minute they'll need to finish up, get in their water, get their stuff on, put their helmet on, snap their chin strap, and then we lined up down the sideline facing the field, toes against the line. It was really cool for me to watch Slam Academy here in Nevada, who won the 2024 3A Nevada State Championship under head coach Mike Cofer. I watched them practice last fall. They took that and did the exact same thing. When they took a water break, they had a structure to it. And I thought that was really good. So that was another way to condition before water breaks. And then the ones the players hated, which we would usually do on a Wednesday, when it was defensive emphasis in the team period near the end of practice, 11 on 11 versus the look team. we would line the defense up and run 3 30-yard dashes. Well, that gives you time to get your look team all set up, get the cards up, get everybody organized. And when the third 30-yard dash was over, our dudes, the defense, were sprinting to their freaking alignment spot. The call had already been made. And as soon as they had a slight chance to line up, that offense was on the ball and they were ready and they ran the play. So we're trying to teach our guys to play hard while they were fatigued. And then I think it helped their game conditioning. So just some ideas on conditioning and when you do conditioning. And again, burst with speed and effort. We're not marathon runners. That's cross country in the fall. We're short-term burst people, and that's how you want to condition. Also, in setting up a practice schedule, I would recommend you do not have special teams at the end of practice. Again, if you really go and watch practices, and I recruited for a living, I saw a lot of practices. And I've also been able to watch a lot of college practices. Generally, then, if you do special teams at the end of practice, a lot of places, the coaches that aren't involved in coaching special teams will go over and just kind of visit with each other. The players that aren't involved in special teams will go over and visit with each other. And to me, you're getting a de-emphasis of probably the most important phase of football. And you don't want that. It's really important. So when you do special teams, break it up, man. Do 1 or 2 phases in the first third of practice. Do one in the middle, and do one before you go to team, perhaps. But do not do it at the end. And don't allow the guys on the sideline that aren't on special teams to sit there and bullshit and jimmy jack around. We lined them up down the sideline, and I watched them as hard as I watched special teams, because what they should be doing is encouraging their teammate, right, and being appreciative that their teammate is out there trying to win in special teams. So don't allow that deal where everybody just goes and relaxes during kicking game. I think it's a bad deal, and it's de-emphasizing a crucial part of the game. And then how do you warm up? Do you do the exact same thing every day? To me, that's a great way to lose interest of the kids we work with now, and frankly, that we've always worked with. I was fortunate to watch Pete Carroll and the Seattle Seahawks in OTAs several times when I coached at Idaho. Coach Tom Cable was nice enough to let me come and hang around, and like they would do such a cool dynamic warm-up, and they would do the kicks and the skips and all that stuff that people do, but the coaches and staff would spread out and they would throw a football at every line as a guy was finishing, right? And we all liked football because when we were little kids, we got to go out and throw and catch the football, right? As we got older, some of us, the less skilled people, got put in positions where you never touched the ball, right? And that kind of sucked. So now everybody touches the ball, including the linemen. And who knows, someday when a fumble's on the ground, maybe that touch that they're doing in practice every day might end up saving you a game. The other thing I'd recommend is have various warm-ups. At Las Vegas High School, we had 3 different warm-ups we would do, and that counted in the weight room too. We had the Wildcat warm-up, we had the LV warm-up, and we had the black and red warm-up. And the kids were taught those. They knew them. They accomplished the same thing, but they were all different. And it then forced guys to learn, focus, and know what they were doing. So mix it up, man. Get practice off to a good start. And speaking of practice getting off to a good start, coaches, if you saw the first pod, you know I was fortunate enough to work with Coach Bruce Snyder here when he was at UNLV. He's the legendary Arizona State head coach with Jake Plummer, who turned college football upside down when they were rolling in Tempe. And I learned so many things from Coach. And unfortunately, I only got to coach with him 1 year, and I got to be good friends with him for a couple of years after that before he passed, unfortunately, of cancer. But the thing he taught me was every day the coaches set the tone for the program. So if the coaches come out on the field and they're kind of hangdog and not fired up, you don't have any right to expect the players to be that way. If the coaches come out and they got some zip to them, during stretch, they're going around and talking to players, right? They're not standing off to the side bullshitting with each other, which I know they want to do. I get it, because you like the guys you coach with. I hope you do. But during stretch is not the time to do it. When we lose a game, and it sucks, that it kills you, it eats you out inside. But 24 hours, the next practice after a tough loss, the coach has got to bring the energy. because then the players will, because they're going to respond to what the coaches are doing. You're all the leaders. I don't care if you're the head coach, assistant coach, assistant position coach. Doesn't matter. You're the leader, so you have to set the tone. This was interesting. At halfway through my tenure at Las Vegas High School, which lasted 9 years as the head coach, we started practicing at night. And I went to a clinic, and I apologize, I don't remember what coach was telling me about it, but he showed their schedule and how they did a Wednesday night practice during the season at the high school level. And I was really happy to find out last summer I had the opportunity to meet with Jose Cerriteno, the new head coach at Las Vegas High School now, and they still practice on Wednesday night. And there was several benefits to it, but the one I have here in my notes, and this was always really good, is when we were at Idaho, Mike Leach and his staff were at Washington State. So we got exposed to a lot of his very unique ways of looking at football. At Idaho, in the off season, in the wintertime, we would go outside in the snow and stuff, and we would do mat drills at 5:30 to toughen guys up, and I'm good with it. It did exactly what it needed to do for us. But at Washington State, they did mat drills at 7:30 at night. And when I talk to people on their staff, I'm like, why the hell would you do that? They're like, well, the head coach says we play almost all of our games at night, then how come we don't ever do any of our work at night? So they would do a practice during the season, and then they'd do mat drills at night. The cool thing about doing a night practice for us when we were at Las Vegas High School was Wednesday after school got out at 1:30. Don't ask me why, it's way too early. But from 1:30 to 5:30, our players were free. Our coaches were free. Probably couldn't go home, but they could get a lot of stuff done. But then if you're the head coach having to deal with, oh, my kid's got a doctor's appointment, he's got to go to the doctor on Tuesday afternoon, he's got to go to the dentist, he's got a bad tooth, they'll be like, Wednesday, 1:30 to 5:30, make your appointments. It's already said. I said it at the parent meeting. It's done. Take care of your business there if your kid's on varsity, okay? Other than that, we're not doing the other stuff unless it's an emergency. So it let you have some leeway there, and then the players would come back, and we'd have a brief meeting, and then we'd head out to practice. And it was kind of fun in the desert. It's obviously cooler at night, and we'd practice at 6. And then by 8, it was really nice, and everybody was fired up by the end of practice. So I like doing that. That lead me into, most of us have often, not every day maybe, but often we have a pre-practice period where we're going to come out and do something. Well, I would challenge you as a coach, whether you're the position coach, coordinator, or head coach, be organized and detailed in the pre-practice, just like you are for the regular practice. On Wednesday, for us, we were, coming out on the field. It was 5:55 was my time. Believe it or not, I punted in college, which was not in the record books at Carroll College, trust me. But I would have a ball ready, and 5:55, the 2 deep of our punt return / punt block team was out there, and I'd have a guy move a ball, and they would come at a pretty good clip, not full speed, and they would just learn we did it every Wednesday to get comfortable opening their hands, seeing the ball, not closing their eyes, and taking the ball off my foot. And it's not that high risk. I got wiped out once in like 6 years, and I didn't get hurt. So it was always worth it. We won a playoff game when a young man named Evan Walton took a ball off a punter's foot and just took it and caught it as it came right off his foot instantaneously. And I always thought that may have had something to do with it because I know his eyes were open. Because it's something we take for granted. Well, when he gets there, the adrenaline, he'll get it. But how many times do we see guys throw their hands out, right? Or they miss, or their eyes are closed and they can't adjust. So that's what we would do. And then as a college coach, when we had pre-practice time, again, this is a Coach Snyder deal, we would make the corrections from the day before. Like if I coached the O-line at Idaho, we had pre-practice time, I would make the corrections from the previous day that needed to be made. They were seen in the film room, and now we're doing them in person. Or if I didn't have a bunch of those, hopefully, we had already looked at the scripts for that day's practice, and we were going to walk through something that was a little different, a little tougher. So we're getting an exposure to it before it shows up full speed in a team period. But no matter what, you have your pre-practice period structured and organized. To me, every practice period, every water break, it's all the same. It has a start, specific, and it has a specific end. Just like a football play, right? Offensively, we know that a football play starts on a snap, ends on a whistle. Defensively, we know it starts on movement and it ends on a whistle. Well, we want all of our periods to do that, whether it's the head coach blowing the whistle to get us from period to period, or you have a manager that blows a horn. But there's a definite start and a stop. And then the other thing to me you have to ingrain is when the whistle or horn blows to go to the next period, everybody on that field is running somewhere. That's how it was taught at Idaho. Like, I don't even care if you don't know where you're running. Start freaking running. And we had the schedule posted, remember, and I found a lot of players, they'd like remember every period. Hell, I couldn't remember the next period from 5 minutes ahead. But we're running. And then the coaches, we have our schedule, we're running. I think too much time is wasted in transition from drill to drill. Okay, where are we going? What are we going to do? That stuff should have all been talked about, okay? All should have been taken care of. And you get a ball down and you get the drill going. It's team, you get the huddles, you get them in, you get them out, you get the drill going. If you think of a team who's not quite efficient at that, and say they waste 6 minutes every day getting drills going, well, over the course of 4 months, that's a lot of time on the field on your legs that you ain't getting nothing done. So you got to hustle, man. You got to go. It's all structured, okay? Bang, 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 bang. Everybody knows what they're doing. And again, there's a start and an end, just like that water break I told you about. It ends after a conditioning period usually, and they run off the field past the line. It starts, that period's over of water when we blow the whistle and we go to the next drill. So, yeah. And now, again, going back to Carroll College, man, I was so lucky to play football there. I got to play football for Bob Petrino Sr. And like a lot of us from there, it's probably why we were a coach. He made that much impact on us. But like anybody that went there and learned how to coach there, and there's a whole bunch of them in high school and college and the NFL throughout the country, they know two things that he always taught. And you could repeat it till the day you die. Hell, you could put it on some of our tombstones probably. And that was coach on every rep and coach on the run. And I learned that the first day I started to try and become a student coach at Carroll. So coaching on every rep, then what I soon learned was it didn't mean you got to correct a guy every freaking time he did something in your drills particularly, or in a team period. It meant giving feedback. So if he does a rep in the drill or his team rep is good, he's your position guy and you're coaching the hell out of him, then you just say, "Great job, George." That's all you got to say. That's coaching. If there's a mistake, correct it on the run. We were taught, run your ass out in the team period, catch him and run back to the huddle with him or run back to the no huddle alignment spot and coach him on the run. Don't stand there. And then when you get a guy, let's say he comes out, somebody subbed in for him, you don't stand there and give him a dissertation because then you're not coaching the other guys. So coaching on the run was physically run and coach him, and then make your coaching point brief, precise, and quick. And again, feedback on every rep. Coach on every rep, coach on the run. And if your whole staff's doing that, I guarantee you, you'll get better. I touched on there a little bit. If you're slow transitioning, period to period, again, there's to me a cumulative effect that by the end of the season, your players get this feeling like, God, man, it seems like we're out on the field all the time. Okay? And if you're getting that feeling from your players, that ain't good. One of the ways I tend to judge programs, whether it was my program, because that was the first thing, other programs I coached in, or anybody I watch, NFL, college, or high school, how are they doing in November, particularly for college and high school? Because your season you is either getting near the end or you can see the end. And so how are your players? Are they coming to practice with the same zip they had in August? Or are they coming to practice like they're just beat down and they can't wait for the season to be over? I'm not talking about wins and losses. I don't care about that. You got 6 other days a week that you're going to be with them, and you got to get better. So to me, all that wasted time on the field in August, September, October, that cumulative effect can hurt you in November. What Coach Petrino taught us at Carroll was, as the season goes on, your practice should get shorter. And we always did that at Las Vegas High School because I'll be honest with you, I didn't want to be out there all freaking day either in November, December, like we had been in August. Okay, it's different. And I want the players to enjoy coming to the locker room, coming out to practice, being around their teammates, being around their coaches. So we were like bang, bang, and we got stuff done and we got off the field. Because again, I want to play good in November, right? That tells you then what? That you have improved up the stair step. Because what you don't want is to come out and gang a fire in late August in your first game, and then by the end of November, you're really flat, not playing very good. That's not a good reflection on us as coaches. So we want to be good at the end of the season. And that shows we've done a good job of capturing our players, making them enjoy coming, and making them want to keep playing, right? College or high school, man, the thought of putting the gear away should make you sick to your stomach if you're in a program that guys enjoy and really like playing in. Because that's a buzzkill when it happens, right? Particularly at high school when we're the ones stuck doing it. And you want to delay that as long as possible. So last thing I want to leave you with, and again, to me it relates to practice, is the role of the head coach. And then I'm talking to all of you guys, and I bet most of you want to do it. You want to be a head coach. So in my observations with head coaches, to me, when the head coach of the organization speaks, it's really important. Like, everybody should shut up and be hanging on every word that guy says or that woman says. You guys are too young to remember these old E.F. Hutton commercials. It was an investment brokerage firm, and somebody would be talking to somebody over here, and they'd say, well, my guy E.F. Hutton says, and everybody would shh. They'd be quiet because they wanted to hear. That's how it should be when the head coach talks. To me, that's how important it is. So when you are the head coach, you need to make sure you don't talk to the team too much. Because the more you talk, it dulls your message. And I have a couple examples I'd like to share with you. I mentioned earlier I used to go get to see Coach Carroll up in Seattle, and now he's here in Las Vegas, and we're all fired up because he's a phenomenal football coach. But Coach Cable let me sneak into their team meeting they would have in the morning of OTAs before they broke to a unit meeting and then position meetings. And here's his team. This was a Super Bowl era Seahawks. And so you figure the head coach, and he's a great head coach, he's probably got a lot to say. He didn't have a lot to say. He had precise, clear goals of the day and then goals long term that he reiterated to his team. And he talked, I'm going to say, 3.5 minutes. And here's my other point, coaches. The next business they had, the NFL had changed the rule that particular offseason. So they needed to educate their team on that rule. Well, most of us, when we're the head coach, we do that. He didn't do that. Coach Carroll stepped aside. They had an assistant defensive coach come up. They had a video ready, and the defensive coach presented the rule change and explained it to the team. Coach Carroll delegated because, yes, it's important, but that's not something that should come from his voice. It wasn't that important. And then they broke, and they went to work. With the loud music and stuff that he believes in and still does. And to me, he's a fascinating study, and I'd recommend, if you haven't, look into him. He has several good books on coaching, does Pete Carroll. I was reminded, Diggs, I got a call from him, but in the summer 2022, this is really abstract. I coached in Mobile, Alabama. I was retired, theoretically, in a startup professional league called Major League Football, and I got to, for 3 weeks, be the offensive line coach for Jerry Glanville. And it was so cool to see this head coach who, via his persona, he's a different figure, but there's nobody I've met that loves football more than Jerry Glanville. And Coach Glanville would briefly address the team after practice. So the guys that were playing on this team, there was 4 teams in this startup league. These were guys that had been on the fringe of the NFL. Several of them had been cut. Guys that were just coming out of college. A couple guys had played in Canada. And these were guys just trying to get film and then obviously try and get to the NFL. So it was a wide range of characters, personalities, as the football locker room usually is. And Coach would speak very briefly at the end of practice. And we practiced in the morning in Mobile out in that humidity, which was another story in itself. And then we would go back and we would base out of that Marriott Hotel in Mobile that a lot of people in football would be familiar with. And we'd have lunch, the coaches would watch practice film, and then we would have a team meeting at 1 o'clock. And we'd be in this conference room. And again, these are men that we're coaching, and they're from all backgrounds. They're all different types of dudes. I have some fond memories and stories of some of them. And this is when Coach Glanville would talk to the team. And Coach Glanville would walk to the front of the room, and everybody would shut up. I'm a huge believer in that, and it wasn't because he told them to. And Coach Glanville, again, would talk for, at the most, 5 to 6 minutes. And he would talk about the things that he emphasized on his football teams. And he'd reiterate it every day. Hustle, which meant playing hard. Toughness, which meant playing physical. And fight, don't ever give up. In some way, these messages would come through in that. And with Coach Glanville, he'd have his glasses on. And those players were riveted to that. And he's not a hard ass. He's a great dude. But he took that seriously, and the players felt that vibe. And again, there wasn't anybody telling him, the players, to be quiet. I'm happy that when I was at Las Vegas High School, when we had a meeting in our team room, which we did 3 times a week, when I walked to the front of the room, that room was quiet. And to me, as I watch teams, and I've been around a lot of teams, if the head coach gets in front of the players and has to say, hey, guys, give me your attention, we got a problem. Okay, that's implied. When the head coach talks, everybody shuts up. I was fortunate. I worked with Bobby Petrino at Arkansas, and I worked with Paul at Idaho, and the same thing happened in both places. When I showed up for my first team meeting at Arkansas in January 2010, I was sitting up in the back of the auditorium trying to stay the hell out of the way. All our players were in there just coming back from Christmas vacation. And we were all making sure everybody was there. And then when the head coach walked through the door, everybody shut up, sat up, locked their eyes on the head coach, and not another word was said. Nobody had to get their attention. When the head coach walked in, the meeting was started. And I think that's a great way to do business. I recommend you do business. And it's not this deal of, I'm better than you. It's an efficient thing. And again, this is the head of the organization. So whatever he says, it really matters. And the assistant coach should be listening, because they need to take those words that he says and take them to the position meetings and take them to the field, because what the head coach preaches, the staff preaches. Then you get alignment. When you get alignment and discipline, you get great football teams. Hey, this has been a blast today, man. My email is coachsink, CINK, @gmail.com. If I can do anything to help you, man, I appreciate you listening to this. Best of luck. Have a good summer.